Yes.
Okay, welcome everybody to round 4, Azerbaijan, or Azerbaijan, or Azerbaijan, or I don't know, as a payback to Bernie. That's what we're going to call this one, as a payback, or as a kickback to Bernie, which basically means why are we racing at Azerbaijan again? I still don't understand. This circuit is as boring as it gets. And well, unless somebody's crashing, it's just not interesting. So it's not interesting this year because nobody really crashed. I think somebody got reversed into. Grosjean didn't hit the wall, but those are the highlights. So yeah, race started, race finished. Glad we're moving on. And I think that's just about everything for this week. Ciao.
Hey, listen, regardless of the fact that I fell asleep during the race, I still think that this is a weirdly interesting circuit. It's like Monte Carlo, but at 330 kilometers an hour. So I still see the appeal of it. It's very intriguing. And yeah, so I'll stay. I mean, I'll maintain that. I mean, there are a lot of things wrong with that circuit. The fact that they cannot prepare it well, potholes flying away all the time, and the stewards are rubbish. So
tell me about it.
Yeah, but those two. So the GP2 race, I think they the last 10 laps and stuff like that were under the yellow flag with the pace car. I mean, yeah, it's insane, but I kind of still like the circuit. It's mesmerizing to me. It's very dangerous. Yeah.
Dangerous, I don't know about that, but is it really what we want, just people to be overtaking in the DRS zone, or not at all? Not really sure about that. And with the tire problems again this year, it's all about tires, as you know. And
it has always been about tires.
With the tire problem this year, I think we could have done without Azerbaijan, or as a kickback for Bernie. So yeah, I don't know why we're still here. It's just ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. But nonetheless, we better just stake the race. Bottas got pole and converted that to a race win. I think he drove almost flawlessly, so I guess he deserves that. Second place was, of course, the Hamilton. And again, he drove a flawless race, to be honest. Mercedes were quite lucky to get away with it, I think. But nonetheless, Vettel gave it a good go and he came in third. Interesting, his comments about the circuit. I think he said he was shitting himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that says everything you need to know about Azerbaijan, or as a kickback for Bernie.
Yeah, that's why I like the circuit. I mean, it's really scary. It has to be scary. And, I cannot believe how fast they fly through those walls. It's fucking incredible.
Yeah, I don't know about that though. I mean, it's 90-degree corners, and
oh no, that's
I'm
very
not interested in it because it just gives us traditionally boring races. There's very little overtaking, and if it is, it's all done under gimmicks. So really, why do we need it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, you're right. I can't. Honestly, I cannot think of any other circuit where they do not overtake under DRS. I mean, I think it's the name of the game right now. The cars are built in such a way that the differences are. I mean, for many of the, if we're talking about the first cars, they need the DRS. And in the middle of the pack, they might not need it, but it's way more useful. I don't know. I don't like DRS too, but it's there, and this is what they're going to use.
Yeah. And again, it's just in a circuit where, well, I don't know. For me, it doesn't work. It makes their gearboxes stretch too long. It's a compromise for them then on acceleration. So I don't see it as being particularly useful in that way. Yeah, it just gives the top teams more advantage because they can have a higher downforce, which means the DRS is more effective because they've usually got more powerful engines. So it plays into the hands of the top teams again. Yeah. I mean, I know why we've got it.
It is mechanically challenging, so that's one thing I like about the circuit. So,
as the circuit, yeah. Again, it's it's good tarmac. I'll give them that, but again, it's such a boring layout that you can't do anything except down the long straight, and even then, you've got a 90-degree onto it. So, yeah, again, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, I mean, I got you. You don't like it. I kind of do. So, yeah.
It's boring as fuck. It's boring as.
Oh, the race was fucking boring. I'll give you that. I mean,
well, it's not just this race. It's most races.
Well, I mean, the last two races, at least they had, the pace car getting in there, so it gets more interesting.
Sure, their last is it two have done that, have they?
Yeah, I mean, no, they've raced there 4 times, and the first time nothing happened, and the last 2 races there was at least 1 pace car, and this is the 4th race where nothing happened. So,
okay, yeah. I generally find it a boring race, but there you go. That's just me, I guess. I'm just an old fart. I wish I'd fallen asleep. I can tell you that.
See, made a smart choice.
You certainly did.
Jesus Christ!
You're gonna do it on any race. This is the one. Anyway, there you go. So yeah, I guess the highlight, as I say, was Grosjean not driving into the wall, and also free practice 1. I think it's free practice 1 where the drain came up and almost tore the bottom off the Williams.
Yeah.
So I guess Azerbaijan are going to be feeling the sting on that one because that probably wrote the car off.
Yeah, I mean, not only the pothole, the truck, smashing into the into the bridge, and licking the hydraulic oil. Jesus Christ!
I forgot about that.
That was fucking insane. But
yeah, very well organised as always. Azerbaijan. Why were we there? Oh yeah, as a backhander. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
I remember now. Yeah, I remember why we're there. But yeah, I mean, it's going to cost them millions.
So what about the race? I mean, tell me something. I really fell asleep. So I saw the start, and then I woke up a little bit when Leclerc was ahead, which almost caused me, an heart attack. And then I realized, okay, this guy's still on yellow. So yeah, there you go. And then I fell asleep again, and I don't know if I saw. Yeah, I probably saw them. I'm not really sure I saw them the checkered flag. I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not even sure I can remember it. It was that interesting. But no, I mean Leclerc did well to start with. He dropped back a little bit, not too much, obviously, because it took him a while to get his tires up to temperature. He was on the harder tires. Then he came through the pack as everybody pitted, etc., and he was out in front. But they left him out too long, I think. And in order presumably to hold up the Mercedes to give Vettel a chance. And it didn't really work. And it compromised his race. So he came 5th instead of 4th. And I've got to say, if they keep doing this, they're going to throw away both championships.
I saw the data. I haven't seen the race, but I saw the data. And I think the reason they kept it out a lot, and I mean, in insight, everybody is a fucking genius. But I think there is a reason, and the reason is that, according to lap times, the Ferrari were performing really bad with the red tires, really bad. And you can see the times of Vettel, in the first stint, and then after with the yellow tires with the yellow in the second part of the race, it was on the same lap times as the Mercedes. So the car was working better. And I think that one of the reasons they kept Leclerc out so much with the yellow tires was because they knew that with the red tires, even if the car was lighter, it wasn't working. And actually, funnily enough, if you saw the times, Leclerc was lapping slower with the red tires, even if he had less fuel than with the yellow tires. So I think they were aware of that particular situation, and they decided to fuck it, we'll do that. And of course everybody was hoping for a pace car, so that would have been another thing that if that happened, I think that Leclerc race would have been a little bit different.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I think they still should have brought him in a little earlier before getting overtaken, because they compromised his race with Verstappen to do that. But I agree. It didn't look like the red tires were going to last, and they needed to push in his laps as long as he could go. But I think once those yellow tires had dropped off as much as they had, then for sure he should have been pitted earlier. Again, it turned, in hindsight, it would have made no difference really, because the red tires couldn't get switched on.
Yeah.
Except until he started pushing them, which then would have worn them out too much. So again, he did get fastest lap. So to say that the tires weren't performing is just incorrect.
I think we're back to what we said last time. I think that well, there are a couple of things more to say. That when we talked about the fact that Ferrari is a more difficult car to set up, the window is very narrow. When they get that window, the car is very fast, but it's very difficult to get into that narrow scenario where everything works the way it's supposed to be. On the contrary, Mercedes is a flattered car. And even if they struggle with the tires too a little bit, but not as much as the other cars. So I think there is that. There is also another thing, which again, I'm only talking with the data because I haven't seen that. But there was an interesting thing that I noticed from Friday to the race. Usually on Friday in free practice, they try to establish the pace of the race. They put fuel and the tires, the thing they're using, and all that stuff. Ferrari's time on Friday were the race time, so they were on target with that. The thing which puzzled me was that Mercedes lowered the times by I think a second and something, a 2.2 from Friday to the race. Now, this makes me think that they are not using the full potential of the engine. They're using that only in the race, which I don't know if it's because they're playing with Ferrari or if they might think that they have some reliability issues. I don't know about that. This is still, this is probably a question that could be answered in the future, because I don't really know about that. And for example, to me, the only part of the race, so the start, if you watch the race again, it is fucking astonishing how those two Mercedes, even if they were battling at the first two corners, they jumped away from all the other cars. It was like watching two different categories. From the start to the first corner, there is a huge gap, and especially from the first corner to the second, they just fuck off, right?
Yeah.
And that was that tells me that they really cranked up the engine, during the race.
Well, no, I'm not sure. I think that was down to Vettel not getting his tires sorted.
No. Nobody was able even to go close to them.
Yeah. But Vettel was the third place man, right?
Yeah, but all the other cars were,
and he said after the race that he couldn't get his tires warmed up at the beginning, right? Whereas the Mercedes did manage to switch on their soft tires, to a degree enough to give it that margin. That's what I'm saying. Well, so I don't think it's that they turned the engine up particularly, although obviously they did, because it's the beginning of the race. So they do have their engine turned up. Now, if Ferrari didn't have their engine turned up, then that's a bit strange, right?
I think,
but it can't be that Mercedes just did something abnormal, turning their engine up more.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what is really worrying is that Ferrari had their engine turned up.
Yeah.
But Mercedes didn't have it on Friday. Well, they had it on Sunday.
On Sunday.
And when they do that, they're so much faster than the other. That is quite astonishing. And when Vettel was talking about the first part of the race, he's not referring to the start. Because at the start is the only single point where you can be sure that the tires are on temperature for everybody.
Well,
Because I'm not talking about the first laps. I'm talking about the first 3 corners. And the first 3 corners, the tires are the same temperature for everybody. Then you can go high and lower, and that's another thing. But when you start, you set your temperature on the tires. You can't have it in a different way. That's actually the only moment where you can precisely put the temperature on the tires.
Well, it depends. It depends how. Yeah, sure, but it depends how well they've done on the warm-up lap, right? I mean, some of the drivers just can't get the tires turned on, especially down in the lower end of the grid. They're not getting the tires switched on until lap 2 or 3. Normally, it doesn't make too much of a difference, but at a really low downforce circuit like this, it's a huge difference. Afterwards, Vettel said on the radio that he was sorry about the result, especially at the beginning, because he couldn't get the tires switched on. So I'm just saying, maybe. I don't think it's that Mercedes had a particularly turned up engine on or more than they would normally at the beginning of a race. Although I'm not disputing with you that they probably do run it at a lower power rating during practice and then switch it up for the race. And more importantly, the point I wanted to make really is that because Lewis and Valtteri were fighting each other, they probably had that engine turned up for a lot more of the race than they really wanted as well. Which is why it looks a bit strange in comparison to, it looks like Vettel couldn't sort his race out, and it looked like Leclerc wasn't doing so well, right? Is on the softer tires, because Mercedes had turned their engine up much more than they normally would at the end of a race.
It's not that they turned it up much more. Again, it's that they turned it up, because it is not normal for a car to have that times on Friday in free practice, where you practice the pace of the race, and then on the race you're running 1.4 seconds slower. This is not something normal, right?
Faster, you mean?
Yes, yeah, lower times, faster, right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing which is really, but nobody does that. And that has never happened. So there is something fishy going on. I mean, fishy in a good way. It is quite worrying. And I think that what we said before, about having a car which is, quite difficult to set up, combined with the fact that apparently Mercedes had a huge reserve in the engine to spend during the race. I think it's a interesting scenario and something we should watch in the following races.
Yeah, I would. Again, I'm not disagreeing that it's slightly strange. I just think at this circuit they probably didn't realize that pace is more down to it's more susceptible to the engine being turned up at this circuit because of how long the straight is, and they literally know that by the end of the year that they're going to be struggling for 3 engines. I think it's 3 engines this year.
Yeah.
So to me, they're just doing the right thing by protecting themselves for later down the line, especially what's next? Barcelona, and then what's after Barcelona? Monaco. Okay, so really it's Canada that they're looking for in the next engine change. So they've got another 2 races, Spain and Monaco, where they're going to have to rely on this one engine. But again, it does seem odd to me that the Ferrari couldn't get its tires switched on. It really does seem odd because, if they've got more power and they were running a larger downforce, which is presumably what they said, then it does seem strange that they couldn't get the tires working.
I mean, in order for you to make your tires work, it's not only downforce of power. This is the thing which might be the only consolation for the Ferrari fans, is that usually when this happens, and again, I'm generalizing, but if you have a car which is struggling to use the tire in a wide range, or all other components, some most of the times it only takes one small component, or one small setup, or one small variation, and everything becomes magically okay. And this I think is the reason behind the words of Vettel when he said, we do not understand, the car exactly, and sometimes the car just works perfectly, and we are not still sure why that happens. It's because it's a very difficult car to set up, and again, I will say, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. The only good thing is that it doesn't take a complete overall of the car to make it work. Usually, in those cases, I hope that it will find that something, so that everything is going to be interesting again. Because right now, the only interesting thing is Hamilton getting a little bit pissed at Bottas, and Bottas. I think is not. I'm starting to think it's not Bottas. It's someone else. They had a facial surgery, because that guy is fucking unrecognizable from last year.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the stuff he's been saying is quite trollish, which is nice to hear.
Have you heard? I don't know if he gave the same answer, but there was an Italian commentator. He was actually talking to him while he was going to the car. Okay, so it was minutes before the race, and they just because Sky Italy, they're quite smart. They send girls to interview the pilot, drivers before the race, so they stop a little bit more than with the other dudes, right? So and she asked him, what is the strength of Mercedes, and Bottas, without bashing an eyelid, he said, "It's me."
Wow.
Yeah. Like, fuck off, right? I will send you the link of the thing if I find it. It's me.
Please do. Yeah. He said on the radio, that puts the championship back the way it should be.
See, I mean, that guy is fucking insane, and I don't think Hamilton is really happy about that.
Well, he doesn't like it when his teammates talk shit about him. He likes to be ultra respectful to everybody. So like do you remember when talking back here, do you remember when Vettel drove into him?
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton couldn't believe it had happened. I mean, Vettel just drove into me. Did he really just drive into me? I can't believe it. He drove into me. He did. Was that deliberate? It's just like, he just drove into you, guy. Of course it was deliberate.
Yeah, it's funny because talking about mind games, Vettel is playing a mind game with Hamilton now. Have you seen the body language after the race? Because that's the part I saw. The two guys were not talking to each other. Then Vettel comes, and he only talks with Bottas, which is the same thing that Hamilton has been doing from the beginning of the year by saying that, Leclerc is a very good driver. Leclerc is a very good driver. Yeah. So, but, now that the things are not going the way he wants, I mean, again, it's body language only, okay? So it's not worth anything. But I don't see him as relaxed as he was.
Yeah, but then again, 2 years ago, Rosberg tried to do the same thing to him. And he just turned around and went, right, I'm not having this then.
There is a huge difference. There is a huge difference because Hamilton has never respected Rosberg. The rivalry went back from where they were racing cars. So he never respected Rosberg, and he always downplayed him. But with Bottas, it's a little bit different because, last year he was praising the guy. Now he has stopped talking about the guy all fucking together. And again, it's weird.
Well, I don't think that's true. Let's just, I don't want you to jump down there because he praised Bottas for a perfect race and praised him for not making any mistakes. He said he'd made a mistake giving Bottas too much room and being too soft on the first corner. So he blamed himself and said Bottas drove a great race. So
yeah, again, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I think he's still confident that he can beat Bottas over the long run because he knows the circuit's coming up. You know, he's going to be the dominant hand on. So, and that this is one of the Bottas circuits, which is not surprising. You know, he would say that because it's a long straight with 90-degree corners. So you don't get much easier in Formula One, you know.
I mean, again, we'll see what the fuck happens, because that will be a very interesting thing to see. It will not be an Hamilton Rosberg thing, because
no, I honestly think
I
honestly think Hamilton's still got the whip hand here. These are just salad days for Valtteri, and you know, he's going to find it a lot harder when he doesn't have a good setup. You know, whereas Hamilton can make that work.
Again, I'm not saying that Hamilton is a slow driver or is finished at all. I'm just saying that Bottas is doing the things which are really bothering Lewis. Like, for example, I think that Lewis is way more pissed at the fact that Bottas got 2 poles than he won 2 races.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Hamilton is going to back himself over the long run because he's more consistent. And
no, I'm talking about, you know, right now.
Right now, he's not that worried about it. I honestly think he's not that worried about it. I think he realizes that the advantage Bottas has had, he's seen in the data, and he's seen that it's because of the type of circuits, and he's not that concerned because he knows come the end of the year, he's not going to be on those circuits. Plus this extra business of, as I'm saying, you know, when the setup's not quite right, Hamilton can pull something out of the bag, Bottas can't. And, you know, over the long run, that's going to pay dividends for Lewis, I think.
We'll see what happens.
We will see. You never know what can happen in Formula One. So, as Murray Walker, the great Murray Walker, used to say, Formula One is if spelt backwards.
Oh, yeah.
So if things go well, then everything will be fine for Lewis, I'm sure. But there you go. Is there anything else you'd like to add in at the end?
No, I was sorry for
mentions?
Well, I'm sorry for Ricciardo. He honestly looked like Maldonado when he reversed into was that Gasly car, or I can't remember the guy.
Grosjean maybe. No. It was.
I can't remember.
It was a Toro Rosso, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a Toro Rosso. So
Kvyat.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, Kvyat.
So I'm sorry for the guy. I think he recovers. I hope he recovers, because I love the guy. I mean, everybody fucking loves Daniel. There is no if and buts about it. A very good race from Kimi. It was starting from the pit lane.
Pit lane to points.
And points. So good job.
Yeah. Again, the speed of that Alpha. Wow. Right. I think he marked himself down as 3:52.
Yeah. That car is fucking fast. I mean, if they have I don't know how much money they have. If they have a little bit money to spend on development, I mean, that would be a pain in the butt, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, they've got a good car to try and copy, so you know what I mean. To see what the Ferrari looked like 6 months ago.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the car is totally different for the Ferrari, so I'm not sure that thing applies. You know, the development is completely different.
Well, I mean, it's the front wing, isn't it? They need to change. So that looks pretty clear to me now as well.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, we'll see. I mean, you know, developing a car is a tricky business. You know, you fine tune a car. You can't, you know, fuck the car away completely. Even if you make major changes, it's gonna affect so many areas of the car that is, you know, it's getting tricky. So that's another thing. If the car is solid, as I think it has way more potential than it has showed, if the car is solid, they will develop it. If they have to change everything mid-season, that means that they're going to lose all the advantage, because they're going to start, you know, from scratch, and it's a pain in the ass. So I'm still hopeful that the car is, you know, has to be tuned, not completely thrown away, because it has potential. But you know, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking to me like the front wing, the way the front wings are on the taller side, or the Mercedes-looking ones, that seems to be the way to go, really. And all of the lower ones seem to be a little more risque, and at least not able to get the tires working as quickly. So obviously they are sacrificing some front end downforce in order to try and give more rear end under the car downforce, right? Diffuser downforce. So it looks to be a pretty straight trade-off between the two. And yeah, with the Mercedes pace, etc., I think it is pretty much showing that that's the way to go on the longer runs. Maybe not for outright speed, but on the longer runs for sure. So you know, yeah, that would be my guess. Would be when we turn up to Barcelona, one of those three teams that have got the lower wing style will have changed. Although maybe Barcelona, it's a medium circuit, so you need medium downforce for it. It's not full on downforce, is it? So only the top cars run full downforce. So we'll see how that goes as well. But I would anticipate some changes coming up from most of the teams in the lower end, most of the teams in the midfield. Otherwise, they're not going to remain there. Just a quick shout out for Norris again, who did really well one more time. Generally, McLaren doing well, so that's good to see.
Yes.
I also a big shout out for my team, Williams, who finished in an amazing 15th, 16th, or 14th, 15th. So that's probably the highest they're going to finish all year.
Yeah.
So well done to them, I feel.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a very fucked up situation. I mean, I would love them, you know, to be in a better position, but it's, I mean, the situation is insane. A very good race from Perez.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
that's a circuit he loves. So there is that. He's always, I think, he's been on the podium 2 times out of 4 or 3 times out of 4. But so he likes the circuit. There is that. But still, you know, it's a very good race. So yeah, I think we are pretty much done here, right?
Yeah, I can't think of anything else other than to say I hope the kickback has been worth it for Bernie, because it's certainly boring the tits off the rest of us. So until the next boring race next year at Azerbaijan or as a kickback, then we're moving on. Glad it's behind us. And ciao, everybody.
Ciao.
Okay, let me just hit the button.